In this lecture, we are going to discuss about Huygens theory of double refraction. So we have already studied about double refraction that occurs in the birefringent materials like calcite and quartz. So this topic, it comes under the third semester and it is not for the students that are studying in the colleges under Punjab University Chandigarh. So this topic is not in the syllabus of Punjab University Chandigarh. So this lecture has been made on the request of some of the viewers. So in this, first of all, we are going to see what is the Huygens principle that we have already studied in 11th or 12th grade. So in optics, you have already studied the Huygens principle of the propagation of light. So what is a wavefront? First of all, we are going to see what is a wavefront. So let's say you have a point source. We have a point source. The light is emitted from this point source in all the directions. So let's say the light waves that are emitted, obviously they will be sinusoidal waves. So let's say one light ray we have shown that goes in this direction, another light ray that goes in this direction, then another one goes in this, and so on. There will be infinite number of light rays which will be coming out of this point source. So what is a wavefront? Wavefront is actually an imaginary surface. So all the points on that imaginary surface, they are such that the light has, all the light rays, they have same phase on that surface. So let's say for this point source, if I will draw a wavefront, so the wavefront for the case of a point source will be something like this. So at all these points on this surface, all these points, the light rays, they will have same phase at all these points on the imaginary surface. So this will be called as the wavefront. And in the case of point source, you can clearly see that the wavefront will be spherical because light rays, they travel in all the directions with the same velocity. So if their velocity is same in the medium, or if you are taking vacuum, so if velocity is same, the wavefront which will be for that particular source, the wavefront will have same radius in all the directions. So for the case of a point source, the wavefront is spherical in shape. Now we are going to see what is Huygens principle. So if I take a point source again, and first of all, if I'll draw the wavefront for this point source, obviously it will be spherical because we are taking, either we are taking a vacuum or we are taking homogeneous medium. So in this case, we are taking a homogeneous medium. Now what is homogeneous medium? It is a medium in which the properties of the medium, they do not depend upon the direction. So properties are same in all the directions. So the homogeneous medium are like glass, water, or even vacuum. So the properties of those media, they do not change as you change the direction. Therefore, the wavefront for the case of the point source is spherical in shape. Now what is Huygens principle? Now according to Huygens principle, every point, all the points on the wavefront, so if you take some points on the wavefront, so these points on the wavefront, they will act as new source of wavelets. So they will emit the wavelets from themselves. So these points on the wavefront will emit new wavelets, and those wavelets will also be spherical in shape, like this. So here the wavelets which I have shown, these wavelets, they are drawn only in the forward direction, and we do not draw the wavelets in the backward direction, and the reason is that the light rays, they propagate in the forward direction. So these small spherical shapes which I have drawn, these are called as secondary wavelets. So every point on the wavefront becomes a new source of secondary wavelets. Now if you draw a tangent on all these secondary wavelets, and if you join all these tangents, then you will get a new surface. So you will get a new surface, and this is the new wavefront. So you get a new surface, and this is the new wavefront. So this was the first wavefront which we have shown. Now every point on this wavefront becomes a new source of the secondary wavelets. And in the case of homogeneous medium, these secondary wavelets, they are spherical. That is, they have same radius in all the directions. So they have same radius in all the directions, and these secondary wavelets, they will propagate with the velocity of the light in the medium. So these wavelets will travel with the velocity of the light in that particular medium which we are talking about. So this tangential surface is the new wavefront. So this is how, so again, on this new wavefront, every point, you can take infinite number of points. So every point will become a source of secondary wavelets. So again you will draw a tangential surface. So that will become the another new wavefront. So this is how the light rays, they propagate. So this theory was given by Huygens. Now all points on a wavefront of light in vacuum or a transparent medium, any transparent medium, may be regarded as new source of wavelets. So these points are regarded as new sources of wavelets, and these are called as secondary wavelets. And these secondary wavelets expand in the forward direction. At a rate depending upon their velocities. So according to the velocity of the light in the medium, so if this point source is kept in a particular medium, it can be vacuum or any transparent medium. So according to the velocity of light in that medium, these secondary wavelets will expand in the forward direction. Now every point on a wavefront may be considered as a source of secondary spherical wavelets. Now this point is for the case of homogeneous medium, because we are talking about the spherical wavelets. So spherical wavelets arise in the case of homogeneous medium like glass or water. So every point on the wavefront may be considered as a source of secondary spherical wavelets which spread out in the forward direction at speed of light. So they will expand in the forward direction at the speed of light. So whatever will be the speed of light in that medium, so with that speed they will spread out in the forward direction. So this is for the case of homogeneous medium, that is, we will have spherical wavelets. Now the new wavefront is the tangential surface. So we will draw a tangent and then we will join all these tangents. So we will get a new surface, and that is called as tangential surface, and that is the new wavefront. So this new wavefront, the tangential surface to all of these secondary wavelets. So the new wavefront is the tangential surface to all of these secondary wavelets. Now as you can see that in this new wavefront, all these secondary wavelets are enclosed. So this new wavefront encloses all these secondary wavelets in itself. Therefore, the new wavefront is also called as envelope of the wavelets. So it includes all the spherical wavelets in itself. Therefore, it is called as envelope of the wavelets. So if a medium is homogeneous, that is, light travels with same speed regardless of its direction of propagation. So if you have some medium like this, and if you have a point source in this medium, so if this medium is homogeneous, then the light rays will travel in all the directions with same speed, because the properties of the medium, they do not vary with the direction. Therefore, the velocity of the light from this point source will also be constant in all the directions. So if the medium is homogeneous, then light will travel with same speed regardless of its direction of propagation. Therefore, in the case of homogeneous medium, the wavelets that we have, they are spherical. So these wavelets which we have in the case of homogeneous medium, they are spherical in shape. Now if we talk about birefringent materials or the double refracting materials which we have talked about earlier in the previous lectures. So what are the double refracting materials? Those materials that show different refractive index as you change the direction. So let's say if you have some birefringent material or double refracting material, so if the light is traveling in this direction, then it will experience a certain refractive index, and if it is traveling in another direction, it will experience a different refractive index. In the case of homogeneous medium, all the light rays, they travel with same speed in all the directions. Therefore, the refractive index which was experienced also remains the same. But in the case of double refracting materials, the refractive index changes as the direction of propagation of the light changes in the medium. So for the case of birefringent materials, firstly we have seen that in these types of medium, so let's say if you have a birefringent material as shown over here. So let's say this is the double refracting material, and let's suppose that some light ray is falling on the surface of this double refracting material. So as we have seen that when a light ray falls on a double refracting material, it splits up into two rays. So one is called as the O ray and another is called as the E ray. So let's say this is the O ray and the another ray is the E ray. So this we have already seen in the lecture of double refraction. So for the case of birefringent materials, so now we will have two kinds of wavelets, because the E ray travels with different velocity in different directions, whereas O ray behaves like ordinary ray, so its speed or its velocity remains same in all the directions. So E ray is the extraordinary ray, and its properties we have already seen that its velocity changes as you change its direction of propagation. So if the light is traveling with same speed in all the directions, then the wavelets in that case are spherical, and O ray is the ordinary ray. So its velocity also remains same in all the directions. So the wavelets for the case of O ray are also spherical. So for the case of O ray, the wavelets, they are spherical in shape. Now for the case of E ray travels with different velocities in different directions. So it will travel with some, let's say it travels with maximum velocity in one direction, and it will travel with the minimum velocity in the perpendicular direction. So E ray experiences minimum refractive index in one direction and maximum refractive index in the perpendicular direction. So its velocity changes as you change its direction of propagation. So for the case of E ray, the wavelet, the shape of the wavelet is not spherical, but it is ellipsoid. So in one direction it will travel with the faster, it will travel with the larger speed, and in the another direction it will travel with the lesser speed. So now we are going to start with the Huygens theory of double refraction. So earlier we saw the general Huygens theory about the propagation of the light in a medium. So Huygens theory of double refraction. So Huygens explained the phenomenon of double refraction by extending his theory of secondary wavelets. So the theory that we saw on the previous page is called as the theory of secondary wavelets. So Huygens extended this theory and he explained the phenomenon of double refraction. So now we are going to see what are the postulates. So what does this theory say? So the first point is that every point on the crystal surface. So let's say if you have some crystal over here, so there is some crystal and let's say this is the crystal surface. Now let's say some light ray is falling on this crystal surface. So this is the point where the light ray touches the crystal surface. Now there will be so many light rays that will be falling on the crystal surface. Now every point on the crystal surface is disturbed by the incident wavefront. So here we have the incident light, so it will have its own incident wavefront. So when the incident wavefront falls on the crystal, so every point on the crystal surface is disturbed by the incident wavefront. So these points where the light rays they touch the crystal surface, these points they become the origin of wavelets, or you can say the wavefronts. So this point becomes a new source of secondary wavelets. So from these points further the secondary wavelets will be originated when the incident wavefront falls on the crystal surface. So every point on the crystal surface is disturbed by the incident wavefront and becomes the origin of two wavefronts. So from each point on the crystal surface which gets disturbed by the incident wavefront, from all these points two wavefronts will be originated. So one wavefront is the ordinary wavefront. So one is the ordinary wavefront and this accounts for ordinary ray. And the another wavefront is the extraordinary wavefront. So this wavefront accounts for the E-ray. So every point on the crystal surface is disturbed by the incident wavefront and each point becomes the origin of two wavefronts. So from each point two rays will be emitted. So two rays will be formed. So double refraction will occur. So these all points they are the origin of two wavefronts. One is the ordinary wavefront and another is the extraordinary wavefront. So this is the first point in this theory. Now second is that the O-ray which is formed, the O-ray which propagates, this O-ray obeys the laws of refraction. So this property we have already seen of the ordinary ray, that O-ray behaves all the laws of refraction. Now for the case of ordinary ray experiences some refractive index inside the double refracting materials. So it will experience some refractive index. So what is the refractive index for ordinary ray? That will be equal to sin I divided by, so we are using Snell's law. So sin I by sine of RO. So RO is the angle of refraction for the case of O-ray inside the double refracting material. So the refractive index is also equal to the ratio of the velocity of light in vacuum to the velocity of light in the medium. So here we have velocity of light in vacuum and in the denominator we will have velocity of ordinary ray in the crystal because we are talking about ordinary ray. So this will be equal to C, because velocity of light in vacuum is equal to C, divided by VO. So we are representing velocity of ordinary ray as VO. So this refractive index which is experienced by the O-ray or the refractive index of the crystal for the case of O-ray, this refractive index is independent of direction of propagation of the O-ray in the crystal, because O-ray behaves like ordinary ray and its speed is same in all the directions inside the double refracting material. So O-ray is the ordinary ray. So its refractive index is independent of the direction of propagation. And due to this, the velocity of O-ray is same in all the directions. So if mu is constant, then C is constant, it is the velocity of light in vacuum. So if mu O is constant, then VO will also be constant in all the directions. So next is the E-ray. Now this E-ray does not obey the Snell's law. means that the ratio of sine of incident angle to the sine of the angle of refraction does not remain constant for the case of E-ray. So the refractive index of the crystal for E-ray is equal to sine I by sine of Re, and that is equal to velocity of the E-ray in vacuum, which is nothing but equal to c, divided by velocity of E-ray in the medium, which is represented by Ve. So this refractive index varies with the direction of propagation of E-ray with respect to the optic axis. So with respect to optic axis, the refractive index of the E-ray will vary. Now, if mu E varies, obviously then Ve, that is velocity of E-ray, will also vary according to the direction of propagation of E-ray with respect to optic axis. Now here is one property of optic axis. So in the case of calcite crystal, when we had drawn the optic axis, there we studied that optic axis, the crystal is always symmetrical about the optic axis. So it is a line around, it is a direction around which the crystal is symmetric. So let's say, what do we mean by symmetric? So let's say if you have this as the optic axis. So let's say this is the optic axis in a particular crystal. Now let's say E-ray, if E-ray travels in this direction. If E-ray travels in this direction, it will travel with a certain velocity. Now if it travels in this direction, if the E-ray travels in this direction, so let's say this angle is 30 degrees with respect to the optic axis. So the direction of E-ray is, the direction of propagation is making an angle of 30 degrees with the optic axis. So this E-ray will travel with a certain velocity. Now if you are supposing that E-ray travels in this direction making the same angle 30 degrees with the optic axis, so the velocity of E-ray will be same as that in this previous case. So if the E-ray is making equal angle with the optic axis, their properties will remain the same. The properties which will be experienced by these two E-rays, they will remain the same. So if E-ray travels in this direction or E-ray travels in this direction, then the properties that will be experienced in these two cases will exactly be the same. So this is what do we mean by that the crystal is symmetrical about the optic axis. So the refractive index for the case of E-ray varies with its direction with respect to optic axis. So if the E-ray is traveling in this direction, then the properties experienced by this E-ray will be completely different as compared to the properties experienced by the E-ray if it was traveling in this direction. So as you change the angle, the properties will also change. So the refractive index will also change. So the wavelets for the case of O-ray, as we have said that velocity of O-ray is same in the crystal regardless of the direction of propagation of the O-ray. So for the case of O-ray, the wavelets, they are spherical in shape, whereas for the case of E-ray, the wavelets are ellipsoid. And we will also see on the previous page, on the next page, we will see that this ellipsoid which we will have for E-ray, this ellipsoid will be symmetrical about the optic axis because the crystal is always symmetrical about the optic axis. So as we have already studied that E-ray also experiences same properties when it is equally inclined with the optic axis. So the ellipsoid is the wavelet of E-ray. So the wavelet of E-ray is ellipsoid in shape. So this ellipsoid is also symmetrical about optic axis. So what do we mean by this ellipsoid wavelet? So let's say if this is the crystal surface, and if light is falling on this crystal surface, so this point will become the origin of this point will become origin of new wavelets. So if this point becomes the origin of new wavelets, so for the case of O ray, the wavelets will be spherical in shape. So we will not draw the wavelet in the backward direction because light propagates in the forward direction. So the wavelet for the case of O ray will be spherical in shape with this point as the center. And for the case of E ray, the wavelet will be ellipsoid. So let's say it will be something like this. So it is a three-dimensional picture. So if you are on this page, you are only viewing the two-dimensional picture. So actually it will be three-dimensional. So for the case of E ray, the wavelets are ellipsoid in shape. So as you can see, if the ordinary ray travels this much distance in a certain amount of time, then if E ray is traveling in this direction, so E ray will travel a larger distance in the same amount of time. So velocity of both E ray and O ray are completely different in the double refracting materials. So from these lens you can easily see that the velocity of O ray is different as compared to the velocity of E ray. And we will also see that these two wavelets, they will touch each other at certain points. So in this diagram, the two wavelets are touching at these 2 points. So now we will be seeing that at what points these two wavelets will touch each other. Now the fourth point is that the properties of uniaxial crystals. Now what are uniaxial crystals? Those crystals which have only single optic axis. Now what is optic axis? So optic axis is a direction. So it is not a line, but it is a direction inside a crystal such that E ray and O ray travel with same velocity along this direction. So uniaxial crystals have only single optic axis. They have only single direction along which E ray and O ray travel with same speed. So properties of uniaxial crystals are symmetric about the optic axis. So this is the property of optic axis, that around this optic axis the crystal is symmetric, and hence the properties of the crystal are also symmetric about the optic axis. So due to this reason, E ray propagates with equal velocities. E ray propagates with equal velocities in directions which are equally inclined to the optic axis. So if this is the optic axis, and let's suppose E ray is traveling in this direction making angle 30 degrees. So let's say it experiences, or you can say it moves with a certain velocity. So if instead of this direction, if the E ray was traveling in this direction making the same 30-degree angle with the optic axis, then this E ray will experience the same properties. It will travel with same speed as in this first case. So E ray propagates with equal velocities in directions which are equally inclined to the optic axis. Thus the ellipsoid, now ellipsoid is the shape of the wavelet for the case of E ray. So the ellipsoid is also symmetric about the optic axis. So if E ray travels in this direction, so let's say in a certain time the E ray reaches at this point, then in the same direction it will reach at this point if it was traveling in this direction. So the ellipsoid which we will have, the wavelet for the case of E ray will be symmetrical about the optic axis. So ellipsoid will have one major axis and another will be the minor axis. So the length of major axis is always greater than that of the minor axis. So major axis, along the major axis, the E ray travels with the larger speed, whereas along the minor axis the E ray will travel with the minimum speed. So it will travel lesser distance along the minor axis in the same amount of time as compared to the case when the E ray was traveling along the major axis in the same amount of time. So the ellipsoid is symmetrical about the optic axis through the point of origin of wavelets. So let's say this is the point. So let's say if was the crystal surface and this was the incident light ray. So this is the crystal, this is the double refracting crystal, and here we have incident light ray. So this point which touches the crystal surface, it will become a new source of secondary wavelets. So from this point we will have spherical wavelets for the case of O ray, and we will have ellipsoid wavelets for the case of E ray. So here the ellipsoid is symmetrical about the optic axis through the point of origin of wavelets. So this optic axis which we take, the optic axis, as we have said, that it is not a single line but it is a direction. So if I am taking this optic axis in this crystal, then a line which is parallel to this will also be the optic axis. Then the line parallel in the bottom, that will also act as the optic axis. So there will be so many optic axes, but which optic axis we have to take into account in this case? So the optic axis which passes through the point of origin of wavelets. So the optic axis which passes through the point of origin. Now this is the point of origin of wavelets. So from this point only two wavelets will be emitted. One will be spherical and another will be ellipsoid. So this optic axis, only this optic axis will be taken into account. So the ellipsoid will be symmetrical about this optic axis. So we will not see any other optic axis which does not passes through the point of origin of wavelets. So only this optic axis will be taken into account, and the ellipsoid wavelet for the case of E ray will be symmetrical about this optic axis only. Now the fifth point. So the velocity of E ray is equal to the velocity of O ray along the optic axis. So along the optic axis, as we have said, that along this direction both E ray and O ray travel with the same speed. Now E ray has its own wavelet which is ellipsoid, and O ray has its own wavelets which are spherical in shape. But along the optic axis, both rays, they travel with same velocity along a certain direction. Therefore, both spherical and ellipsoid wavelets will touch along the optic axis. So they will touch along the points along the optic axis. Now, as we had shown, the spherical wavelets in the case of a point source. So these were the spherical wavelets. So these distances, they are same in all the directions because the light travels with the same speed. So their distance depends upon the speed of light. So if they are traveling with same speed, so we have same distance. But for the case of E ray, the velocity of E ray changes as you change its direction of propagation. Therefore, these wavelets for the case of E ray, they are not spherical but they are ellipsoid. So they will be something like this. So they will travel a larger distance in one direction and minimum distance in the perpendicular direction. So therefore, for the case of E rays, the wavelets are ellipsoid in shape because its velocity is different in different directions. So these two wavelets, so from this point we have said that from this point two wavelets will originate. One will be the spherical wavelet and another one will be the ellipsoid wavelet. And along the optic axis, both E ray and O ray travel with same velocity. So along the optic axis, they travel with same velocity. So these two wavelets, the two wavelets which will originate from this point. One is the spherical and another is the ellipsoid. So these two wavelets, they will touch only along the points only on the points which are along the optic axis, because their velocities are same along the optic axis. So the wavelets for E ray and O ray will also touch each other on the points which are along the optic axis, and optic axis we have to take only that optic axis which passes through the point of origin of wavelets. Let's take an example. How do we draw the wavelets for the case of E ray and O ray? So these dashed lines which I have shown, these are the optic axis. So for the first case, the optic axis is in this direction. In second case also, the optic axis is in this direction. Then in the third case, the optic axis is inclined with the crystal surface, so it is in this direction. So now we are going to draw the wavelets for E ray and O ray in each figure one by one. So let's take this first figure. So this is the incident light which is falling on the crystal surface. So here we have a plane wavefront. So plane wavefront is falling on the crystal surface. So when the incident wavefront falls on the crystal surface, every point on the crystal surface becomes the origin of new, or you can say the secondary wavelets. So two wavelets will be emitted from these 2 points. So there will be large number of rays which will be falling, but for simplicity I have shown only 2 light rays. So this point will become the source of secondary wavelets. Similarly, this point will become the new source of the secondary wavelets. So from this point, this point on the crystal surface will become the origin of 2 wavelets. One will be spherical and another will be ellipsoid. So the spherical wavefront is for the case of O ray. So here I have shown the spherical wavelet. So this is a 3-dimensional picture, but on a piece of paper it looks 2-dimensional. So this point is the origin of spherical wavelet for the case of O ray. Now for the case of E ray, the wavelet will look something like this. For the case of E ray, it will be ellipsoid, and you can see over here that these 2 wavelets, so this is for O ray and this one is for E ray, and you can see that these 2 wavelets, they are touching at these 2 points over here. So they are touching at these points, and these points are along the optic axis. As we have said that this is the optic axis in the first figure, so this solid line will also be the optic axis. So these are the optic axis, and this solid line will also be the optic axis, but optic axis, only that optic axis has to be taken into account which passes through the point of origin of wavelets. So now this is the point of origin of wavelet. So we have to take into account only that optic axis which passes through this point. So with that is nothing but this solid line. So along this solid line, along this optic axis which passes through the point of origin of the wavelets, so this solid line, along this solid line, the 2 wavelets will touch each other. So by touching each other, we mean that if O ray and E ray travel in this direction, then their speeds will be exactly same. So if O ray travels this distance, then E ray will also travel the same distance in the same amount of time. And similarly is the case in this direction. So they will travel same distance in same amount of time. But you can see that O ray, in all other directions, O ray travels same distance in all the directions, whereas E ray travels, let's say it travels this much distance in this direction, then its distance increases in this direction, then its distance increases in this direction, and it is maximum along this direction. So its velocity is maximum along this direction. So E ray travels with the maximum velocity in one direction and minimum velocity in perpendicular direction. So this is how we draw the wavelets. Now in the second case also, we have incident light ray which is falling at a certain angle of incidence. Now the wavelets in this case will also be the same. So this point will become a source of secondary wavelets. So from this point, spherical wavelet will be emitted, which is for the case of O ray, and for the E ray we will have ellipsoid wavefront. So these two wavefronts for O ray and E ray, they will touch at these points. So the optic axis in the second case also is parallel to the crystal surface. So here also we will take this solid line as the optic axis because it is passing through the point of origin of wavelets. So we always have to take into account that optic axis which passes through the point of origin of wavelets. So these wavelets which are emitted, these are emitted from this point. So for time being, we are only considering the wavelets which are emitted from this point. So we have to take only this optic axis. So the two wavelets will intersect each other, or you can say they'll touch each other at these points which lie along the optic axis. Now in the last case, in this case the optic axis is making a certain angle with the crystal surface. So if we make the light ray to fall on this crystal surface, so these points will become the source of secondary wavelets. So two wavelets will be emitted, one will be spherical and another will be the ellipsoid. So the spherical wavelet, its shape will remain the same like this because O ray travels with same velocity in all the directions. So from this point one wavelet will be emitted and that will be spherical for the case of O ray. Now for the case of E ray, what will be, how do we draw the ellipsoid? So in this case you have to take into account the optic axis. So in the previous cases, this was taken as the optic axis because it was passing through the point of origin of the wavelets. Now in this case, these are the optic axis. The optic axis is making a certain angle with the crystal surface. So we have to take into account that optic axis which passes through the point of origin of wavelets. So from all these optic axes, we have to take into account only that optic axis which passes through the point of origin of wavelets. So over here, this is the point of origin of wavelet. So the optic axis that we will take into account will be this one because this line is passing through the point of origin of the wavelets. So we have to draw the wavelets according to this line, considering this line as the optic axis. So the ellipsoid will touch the spherical wavelet. The ellipsoid wavelet will touch the spherical wavelet along the points which are present on the optic axis. So the two wavelets touch at points which lie on the optic axis. So over here also the two wavelets will touch each other. They will touch each other on the points which are on the optic axis. So this will be the point where, so this point lies on the optic axis. So at this point the two wavelets must touch each other. So how do we draw the ellipsoid in this case? So the ellipsoid will be drawn in this manner. So the ellipsoid must be symmetrical about the optic axis. So over here, if you will complete this diagram, so you do not have to complete this diagram, but you just imagine that if you extend this optic axis in backward direction, then this ellipsoid will be symmetrical about this optic axis. So we draw the ellipsoid in a manner that it is symmetrical about the optic axis as well as it touches the spherical wavelet at a point which is present on the optic axis. So this is how we draw the wavelets in the case of double refracting material, and this was given by Huygens. So this is the Huygens theory of double refraction. In the next lecture we will discuss how do we find the position of O ray, how do we define the position of O ray wavefront and the E ray wavefront inside the double refracting material.